Good morning, class. Today we're going to be starting our life science unit notes. So for the next 3 or 4 weeks, we will be trying to cover these two main curriculum standards. Matter is transferred continuously between one organism to another and between organisms and their physical environments. As well as, in any particular biome, the number, growth, and survival of organisms and populations depend on both biotic and abiotic factors. Last year, you learned about a lot of little tiny things, starting with atoms, which are made of subatomic particles. And those atoms can combine to create parts of cells called cell organelles. And once you have a certain group of cell organelles, you have what's called a cell. Once you have a group of specialized cells, it's called a tissue. Tissues can be combined to create organs such as a heart or a kidney or even skin. And then you have organs combined to make organ systems. So we have like the nervous system, the circulatory system, the digestive system. Now, building on that knowledge, we're going to be moving into organisms, which are a combination of organ systems. An organism, basic definition, is a living thing. Now, organisms can be unicellular, which is made of one cell, or it can be multicellular, made of more than one cell. And all organisms need food, water, and shelter to survive. So keeping those three things in mind, organisms live in habitats. A habitat is simply the environment that they live in that provides them with those three things: food, shelter, and water, which helps them to survive. Not only just survive, but they can grow and reproduce so the species continues on. In one habitat, you might have several species living there, so let's talk about what a species is. It is a group of organisms that are physically similar and can mate with each other to produce offspring. So that is the definition of a species. It's going to be very important for you to understand that definition. And not all habitats are the same, probably aware of that. So some organisms need a very cold climate with a certain type of food and environment to live in, but others would need a more warm with lots of water and different types of animals and plants to live off of. Now, niche. I like talking about this word. The definition is just the role that an organism plays in its habitat. So when you're talking about an organism's niche, you're talking about what it does, what it eats, what eats it, where it lives, how much resources it uses, how much and what type of waste it creates, how does it fit into the environment that it's in, what is its role. And there is a short video. I'm going to post this in Blackboard, and I would like you to go in and watch this short video. I think it's like 1 to 2 minutes long. So make sure you do visit Blackboard to watch the video and add any notes, add at least one note from the video onto your notes. Biotic factors. This is one of your vocabulary words. Biotic means living. Biotic factors are the living parts of a habitat that interact with, that the organism interacts with. And it includes plants, animals, fungi, protists, and bacteria. So anything that's living in an ecosystem or biome, those are words we're going to get to in a little bit, that is a biotic factor. So what is an abiotic factor? The exact opposite. It is a non-living part of a habitat that an organism interacts with. Examples would be water, sunlight, oxygen, temperature, soil. All of those things are non-living. Now, soil has living matter in it, but soil itself is just broken down pieces of rock. An organism may not have to use all the biotic and abiotic resources in its community to survive, but that is part of its habitat. So here you can click on this link if you want. It's like a little game as far as being able to label certain things within an ecosystem. So you can practice labeling biotic and abiotic factors within an ecosystem. And on your notes and on the screen, you see a chart that gives you more examples of those factors as well. So how are habitats organized? Organisms are broken down into certain species, but then once you have a certain species living in a certain area, that's called a population. So example would be the white-tailed deer in Indian Hill, or the wild turkeys that live in Indian Hill. They're a population because we're talking about a certain species of deer and turkey, but also they live within a certain area. Community. That is when you look at an ecosystem and you have lots of different populations. So it would include all of the species within a certain area. Turkeys and deer share the same water source. So you're talking about them being a community because they share the same resources in the same area. An ecosystem. It is the community of organisms, so all of the living biotic factors, but also the abiotic factors in that area. So that's when you get into talking about the soil, the water, how much sunshine, the type of air that is there, etc. So here's the diagram, and it is also on your chart or your notes, so please make sure you fill it in. But the way I think about this is kind of like a stepladder. So when you're talking about the species, species are a specific type of organism. Population is a species that lives in a certain area. Community is a set of different populations within an area. So you might have more than one species living there. Then when we get to ecosystems, we're not only including all of the populations that live in an area that make up that community, but we're also talking about the abiotic factors. So just keep all of those in mind as far as how they all relate to each other. We will be moving on to changes in an ecosystem shortly.